It's time for the news.
Another UFO sighting has taken place.
The leather's made out of cardboard.
The number you have dialed is in an alternate dimension.
Welcome back to Weird Week. Today is Wednesday, May 10th, my birthday.
Happy birthday. Happy birthday.
Well, it's my birthday too, yeah. Happy birthday, me. Just wanted to throw that out there. Appreciate all the love and support from all my friends and family out there. And for anybody who's a fan who wants to support us.
Who's also a weirdo.
And is a weirdo, that's right. Welcome back to the cast. It's been a good couple of days. DK, how you doing?
I'm doing dandy.
Not too shabby.
Do the kids still say dandy?
I didn't even say it, but I'm your host, Jack DeMont, co-host Daniel Kim. The kids, I don't know that they say dandy, but I also don't know what the kids are up to these days. I'm so out of touch, it's sad.
Do the kids still have a gay old time?
I don't know about that one. Gonna move right into things because we're moving fast these days. We got to start off. It's unfortunate, but someone, a lovely manager at a Big Lots, was fired recently for simply trying to stop some theft. She says she was just trying to get back an expensive cart from a shoplifter, but at the end of the day, her interaction with someone who was stealing led to her dismissal because Big Lots felt as though she put herself in harm's way and they don't want to be liable for that kind of a thing. It does kind of pose the question because I think there are a lot of people out there who don't really understand that their job is on the line if they try to do something like that. They think in their mind they're doing the proper thing by trying to stop their store from being robbed, and at the end of the day the company would much rather take a $200-300 loss on product than be hit with your death and then be put into the news for something as awful as that. So I think that's what came down to her dismissal, but it is unfortunate because it is the type of thing where she was just trying to do her best. She's just trying to help and do the right thing, and it ends up getting her canned. It's unfortunate.
It's unfortunate. I mean, especially with all the theft that's going around, the fact that a worker actually tried to do something about it and she got reprimanded by losing her job and being terminated from her employment is just horrible. I mean, I get it. Companies they shell out a lot of money for loss, injury, or in the worst case, death. But I mean, I get the business side and financial side of it, but also it's like one of your workers was trying her darndest to get one of your property back. So it's just kind of, I don't know. It's just like, I would think that at least that's a write-up more than a termination of your employment.
100%.
At least you can commend her for be like, hey, you're trying to do something about this guy stealing, what you already paid for and what's yours, rightfully yours,
100%.
And another thing.
Go ahead.
Are there still Big Lots?
Well, evidently there are still Big Lots. It kind of makes me go into another Starbucks story. I spent so much time at Starbucks working there for a few years that I have plenty of stories. I don't mean to just bring them up every cast, but it's where I spent a lot of time and I had a lot of experiences there. And this kind of thing has happened to me on multiple instances where I catch somebody stealing. And this is not just Starbucks. It's happened at many of the different types of service industries that I've worked in. People stealing or just causing some sort of a problem that you feel like as an employee there, you're not allowed to let that happen. This disturbance in the force shouldn't be allowed. And it reminds me of a specific story because this was an incident where it felt like I really didn't know what was the right thing to do. Because if it's like just petty theft or something to let that one slide, because if you have worked in that kind of field long enough, the company is willing to take that kind of a hit over being liable for you getting hurt or something like that. But what was different about this story that I'm talking about is that I worked at a Starbucks in Los Angeles by UCLA, lots of traffic from the school, but also lots of traffic from the surrounding businesses. There were some high-rise buildings nearby that were lots of employees would come through to our Starbucks. Our Starbucks had no seating, so we were strictly in and out as fast as you possibly could go. And they basically, so since there was no seating or anything like that, and it was so high traffic, there was kind of lots of disorder happening out in the lobby, and there was no way to kind of control it. But we also had lots of transients come in, being as we were in the heart of Los Angeles. So you had to try to, as a Starbucks employee, you have to try to navigate those waters really difficult too, the homeless, because you have to provide a safe space for them as long as they're not causing any kind of disturbance or smelling too awful or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
But this one started to get, this homeless man started to solicit. He started to ask for stuff from each customer walking around the lobby, and that is a big no-no. We don't allow that. And so one of our employees, a female coworker of mine, asked him to stop. And she was kind of like our security. She would do the rock eyebrow. She was like a thick Latina mama, and she would do the rock eyebrow, and she would go over to she'd be like, "Hey, you're not supposed to do that around here. If
you smell what Starbucks is cooking.
If you smell what Amanda's cooking." And she did that, but normally it works, right? Where she just like says that you're not supposed to do that, and they go, oh, they get scared and they run away. This one got aggressive immediately, put his fists up and started swinging right away. And Amanda wasn't expecting that. She looks hard, but she's not about to try to get into a fist fight with a homeless guy that has nothing to lose.
Mm-hmm.
Neither am I. But as I felt like I had to try to protect my coworker, I jumped right in. I looked around. I saw none of my other coworkers stepping in, and I didn't know what else to do, but I didn't want my coworker to get harassed or to get hurt. She looked like she was about to take a real punch to the face. And so jumping in, you force the guy out, and you try your best. You call the police. The police say they're coming. 2 hours later, they're there, and they go, "Oh, where'd the homeless guy go?" And you go, "It's been 2 hours. He went that way. What are you doing here now?" But it is what it is. It was just a pretty crazy incident. It reminds me of that because it's just the kind of thing where you don't know what you're supposed to do. You want to protect your friends and your coworkers. You kind of don't care if the company takes the hit at the end of the day, but you got people in your life there that you've got to protect, and it's hard. I didn't get in any kind of trouble. They didn't, call me liable for anything or anything like that. They just wanted to make sure I was okay. But it's crazy the kind of stuff you have to go through in the service industry and the kind of waters you have to navigate on whether or not you're allowed to do something or not to the customer, or else you're a liability or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, it sucks. It's a shitty situation all around. I mean, I guess companies are looking out for you, saying like, "Hey, just don't interfere. The insurance will cover it." But man, like, of all the theft we've heard in the news that goes on and all the loss because somebody has to shoulder that loss if theft happens. I know, like, at the end of every, like, I used to be an assistant store manager for a retail that I won't mention, but like you do inventory at the end of the year, and there's also something called shrinkage where like it shows it's a difference between the amount that the inventory that you counted to the inventory that's supposed to be in the system. And when you have a lot of theft and that shrinkage is at a larger number, it's like people have to answer to that. And it just sucks that like an employee that was just trying to do the right thing morally, ethically, saying, "Hey, you're stealing something that's not yours," and trying to step in. I don't know. It's hard. I can't blame that employee being like trying to do the right thing I also can't blame the company for being like, hey, just, you know, practice safe.
Lots of people got to cover their own asses.
So it's just, man, I know it's hard. It's just,
yeah,
with shitty people comes shitty results. And this is one of those instances where like that happened, and it's just somebody that didn't have to suffer losing their job had to, because some idiot decided to take things that's not theirs.
Right. Now, speaking of whether or not something should be a lawsuit or not, Peloton has just gotten a big W in terms of people trying to sue them. Peloton, I guess, had promised that they were going to have this huge catalog of classes, over like 12,000 programs or something like that, and kind of had to backtrack on that. People are trying to sue them for false advertising, but the people that are trying to sue them are trying to get it turned into like a full-on class action lawsuit, and the judge has nixed those plans. They said we don't define it as a class action lawsuit. Not enough people saw the advertisement for 12,000 classes or whatever in order for it to be justified as like literally the entire Peloton community was affected by said thing. And so since they couldn't really find enough evidence to prove that the entire community was affected by this, they are determining that these lawsuits have to happen on a more individual case-by-case basis.
Yeah, and I know Peloton took off during the whole COVID pandemic because everybody was at home and gyms weren't open. Therefore, a lot of these guys, and Pelotons aren't cheap. You have to pay a pretty penny for the machine and also the subscription services for those classes. That stuff isn't cheap. But I mean,
from what I'm seeing, this is affecting. This was nixed, and like the whole lawsuit and everything are happening out in New York, and you have to imagine New Yorkers don't have as easy of access to like outdoor workout type things. You know, everybody's kind of isolated to their apartment in a lot of ways, or they can go to a gym, but there's not too many different places for people to go out and get their exercise. So you have to imagine a lot of these people in New York living in their apartments and whatnot got the Peloton during COVID and whatnot, and are trying to get their exercise on.
It's just ironic because they have one of the biggest parks parked in the middle of their city. They could just do a jog.
I could be making assumptions. That's for sure. But at the same time, a Peloton's not just like an exercise bike or a treadmill or something. It has a few different extra levels to it.
Yeah,
mostly like the included classes and whatnot. But it's kind of it's a big win for Peloton. At least they got away. They got out of that.
Moral of the day: just go to the gym. It's probably cheaper.
Don't you guys buy the crazy equipment.
Speaking from someone from LA, where I have to literally drive to a gym, and not only drive to the gym, try to find parking for the gym instead of paying parking where the building of the gym is in. You guys have subways. Go to the gym. It's probably a lot cheaper. And you build up community, and you do it with people with like minds. You can maybe meet your next friend, significant other at the gym.
Yeah, exactly. It's a social, it's a community. You know, it's a whole community of people for you to get out there and meet and explore with.
Yeah.
Speaking of legislation, we've got a Minnesota legislator who decided to vote from in his bed with his shirt off on a video call. And it's
cue sexy saxophone music.
Kenny G. Is it Kenny G?
I think it's Kenny G. Yeah, he's one of the.
He's at sexy sax.
Yeah, sexy sax.
Sexy sax. Yeah. So this legislator, I guess the reason why he decided it was necessary was because he is a truck driver by day and a senator by night kind of thing. And he went to bed very, very late the night before at like
that wasn't as sexy, a trucker by day and senator by night. It's like, oh, not as sexy as
not Bat. He's not Batman. But Yeah, so he, he doesn't comment on it or anything. He doesn't think it's a big deal. Nobody really does think it's a big deal. Even the other senators and whatnot understood where he was coming from. It's just kind of a funny thing, and it's gone viral.
Mm-hmm.
So let legislators do work from in bed without bothering them. Okay, not every single one of these senators and whatnot needs to get Me Too'd or whatever because they're doing shirtless video calls.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, let me vote from in bed and go back to sleep. Okay.
Oh shit! It's voting day.
Oh yeah.
You lock in.
It's like the alarm goes off. Groundhog's Day. What's that one song that they play in Groundhog's Day over and over? You put your little hand in mine, and there's nothing you can't find. Did you like that movie, Groundhog's Day? Bill Murray?
Yeah, old school movie.
Bill Murray almost got Me Too'd, but he's just barely like gotten by with by the skin of his teeth.
Yeah.
Basically, he's like, every time he's been like, no, you don't understand. It was a misunderstanding. And I was just trying to be funny and it was a different time.
Yeah, exactly.
He's like, I promise I'm not a bad guy. I promise I'm not a bad guy. I was just making jokes. And it was a different time where I was allowed to make those jokes. He's like, I'm very sorry, but I promise I have not done anything really overtly wrong with any of these people. Speaking of doing overtly wrong things with these people, Indigenous leaders are demanding an apology and reparations from King Charles because of past wrongdoings by the entire British country.
Yeah.
Right.
Tough situation. I know Great Britain used to be a big colonizer in history, and I know a lot of countries are asking for some reparations. I think they have a lot of like artifacts in museums in Europe, and a lot of
You're gonna
countries
get yours.
countries are asking for those art because that's a big part of their culture, and it's just give it back.
Yeah.
That's all I can say. It's just like, I get it. It was in your museum for quite a bit of time. Just give those artifacts back. It's like, come on.
They want more than just the artifacts back. They want a real apology.
Yeah.
They want the freaking British government to admit what they've done is really, really shitty, and to stop acting like they're such a class act.
Yeah.
We want people to know that they were trash people for a long time who were colonizing everything just for the sake of being the most prominent power.
Mm-hmm.
And this
I mean, no, but sorry to interrupt, but
go ahead.
I mean, it's one of those things. I think America's going through it too with like the whole Black history and American what's taught in schools, and it's just there's now this thing about critical race theory, and it's just I mean, it's good to know. I mean, it's not necessarily. I think a lot of times it's misunderstood that like a lot of people who grew up, I guess, quote unquote, in the right side of history are saying like, hey, you're taking away, like, let's say you're taking like a prominent figure that was throughout history known to be like a great leader, to have him now expose the ugly side of him, saying like, hey, you shouldn't be exposing that side of him. But it's not more so like dishonoring him. It's more so kind of being like, yo, like although some of the things he did was great, these things did happen, and we should teach everything that happened, basically.
Right.
So I think that's generally, like, I guess the people who want these apologies too, it's just they're kind of asking for the same thing. It's just like, these crimes did happen and our voices aren't being heard. Please hear our voices.
It's more than just an admission.
Yeah.
They don't in terms of reparations, a lot of people are not asking for you to just submit and let other people become a more dominant power, or for you to go and to become slaves yourself or something like that. Reparations are more just like, hey man, make it up to us in some way, shape, or form. Try to make up some of what's been going on over these past hundreds of years. Just to touch on who's trying to get these reparations, it's 12 indigenous advocacy groups from former British colonies, including Jamaica, Antigua and Barbuda, New Zealand, Australia, the Bahamas, Belize, and Canada.
Mm-hmm.
They just want acknowledgement of the horrific impacts on and legacy of genocide and colonization.
Yeah.
They want it to be recognized. They want the British government to stop acting so high and mighty, and to like humble themselves a little bit and to be like, yeah, nah, we messed up. Not, you know, there's nothing we can do now to take it back, but we really messed up with how you know, territorial and awful of a group of people we used to be. But, you know, we don't see necessarily any signs of them actually giving these reparations or apologies either. And so I think that's part of where this controversy is lying, is there actually going to be some sort of reparations or apology, you know?
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, if all they're asking for is like, hey, recognition and an apology, you guys owe it that much.
100%.
That's like the least of what you can do. I mean, I don't know, even as individuals who have suffered trauma, knows how hard it is to overcome that trauma. And now you put a group into it where you kind of created either a genocide or discrimination or anything that kind of systematically, you know, put something in place where you stop progression is, you know, I mean, if all they're asking, I mean, I don't know, to be honest, their demands, but if from what I'm hearing is apology and recognition, that's, I mean,
it really can't
it's
be
a no-brainer. Yeah,
right.
It's a no-brainer for me.
Now, it does say that there's an independent investigation happening with where they're looking into the monarchy and its connections to slavery, and the monarchy has said it's cooperating with said investigation. I don't know what they have to investigate in that. That's where I fall on that is no, you guys were slavers.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, that might be like PR talk, is like, oh, well, we'll get around to it when we get around to it type of a deal. Might be.
Come on. No, come on. We know. Don't act like this is an investigation. It's the same thing with the NFL investigation we were talking about last time. It's, what are we investigating? We know what you did. Don't deny. Don't deny. The NFL was denying. These guys aren't denying. They're just saying they're cooperating with it, which is interesting. Moving on, more tragic stuff. This is a pretty heavy episode. Speaking of more indigenous people and tragedy, there's over 200 dead in the Congo, the nation of Congo and the state of Congo, in the Congo area. These tribes are being hit by floods, massive floods that are taking out so many people. It's devastating because, you know, they're tribal. They don't have buildings with super insane infrastructure. These buildings of theirs get wiped out with flood so easily. So for them to experience something so tragic and on such a massive scale, they don't have the economy to kind of, you know, support themselves after this kind of tragedy and whatnot. So we have to hope that we have more, that these wonderful people out in the Congo who don't deserve any of this kind of awful stuff, that they get some help from the powers that be and from the governments that be, that have the money and power to help. This is something where it's like, who cares about your beliefs and your differences and whatnot? Send them some money, send them some resources, and help these people out, because it's strictly like, it's human nature to be kind and help these people. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know it's also tough for a lot of the African nations because there's a lot of political instability too, to put something in place that can help out, like as far as infrastructure is concerned. It's also comes to mind, like how like a lot of these extraction of natural resources like deforestation and stuff like that. I wonder how much that has a part in these floodings that cost so many lives. I know it's like deforestation. The more deforestation happens, the more likely floods supposed to happen. So, yeah, I mean, just we are hoping for the best. Pray for those people out in Congo. I mean, 200 lives lost. That's tragic.
It is tragic, and as I look into it further and read on, it looks like Rwanda, which is another country bordering the Congo, have also suffered tragic losses to these floods, with over 120 people dead. And these numbers are all just still like early numbers. They're still searching for more missing people, so there's probably maybe even hundreds more dead bodies out there as they continue the search. Rwanda just as badly affected, it looks like, and the local government has said this is the fourth time that such damage has been caused by the same rivers. So like these rivers are the things that are overflowing from massive rainfall. Not 10 years pass without them causing enormous damage. So you wonder if maybe the government or whoever the powers that be out in the Congo are, or just like the leaders of the villages and whatnot, maybe need to just try to find a better place to live, in a sense that, like, yes, you're next to rivers which provide you a water source, but those rivers within a 10-year span will almost guaranteed overflow and flood your entire village. Is it as smart in the long term for you guys to be set up shop there? Can you set up shop somewhere else maybe? And I know it doesn't sound it sounds easier said than done, but that is the kind of thing that it takes to fix these issues. You can't keep living in a place that has such severe weather conditions and things like that your people can't handle it. You know what I mean? You got to find a better place to live if that's the case, But it's hard. It's hitting more than just some people in the Congo. It looks like it's affecting almost the entire Congo, I think, and Rwanda too. So it's not as simple as just finding a new place to live. So if it's not as simple as just finding a new place to live, they really got to figure out a new way to fix the infrastructure of these buildings and everything in order to provide safety during such insane flood times.
Yeah.
It's intense. It's unfortunate, and our prayers and best wishes go out to all of those lost and continuing to be devastated by that tragedy. And to move on to our final story is another tragic story about too many losses. It's unfortunate.
I can't take anymore. You got to stop.
No, you got to stop. We have 7 dead horses in the Kentucky Derby and counting. This, I guess, is something that's much more common than I realized, but it's something because I didn't realize this, I felt like we should maybe speak on and just let people know, is that turns out the horse racing world is a lot more intense than we thought, and they are worked to death,
literally,
more often than thought. So 7 have died during this Kentucky Derby, and it just it poses the question of whether or not this is like animal cruelty, whether or not this is something that is sustainable. Can we continue to work just innocent animals in this kind of a way for our entertainment, just so that they can die? I mean, you had brought up earlier bullfighting as another form of these kind of like animal they're these animals being put on display for our entertainment, but then to be killed essentially. It's like, is it any worse than a bullfight where, yeah, we're not watching the animal get stabbed over and over again and then just like fall to its death in front of us, but you're still watching horse after horse exert itself to a point that it will die? Is that not almost the same exact thing? And I don't know how many bulls die in the bullfighting event. Like I would imagine it's one. I don't know, maybe one per bullfighter. But 7 horse deaths, that's a lot. Like I don't know how many bulls they're killing out there. I don't know if it's 7. You know what I mean? Like, it's pretty gnarly. It's hard to palate, you know?
I mean, because horses can't technically talk. Because athletes, like let's say a professional athlete injures his elbow or knee, you know, they can talk and they can communicate with like their team saying, hey, like my elbow is really hurting, or my knee or my ankles are hurt. Therefore, they might, you know, consult the doctor, and then they say, hey, just sit out a few games until you heal up. But horses don't have that ability. So it's just that idea you're kind of overworking them because they technically can't speak for themselves. Man, three
Unfair.
tragic, unfair stories in a row.
Yeah. But that's just how we roll here on Weird Week. Is we just roll with whatever we've got, and these tragedies just lined up on one day.
Yeah, on your birthday too. Happy birthday, by the way.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I really needed to pick me up. Happy birthday. It's been fun. I appreciate you, Daniel. It always is. It always is fun. And we're just moving and grooving nowadays. Keep on following, liking, subscribing, and giving us all your attention and money, because we need it. We look forward to giving you guys more content in the future. Please give us the love back. We'll see you soon. Peace.